Hello, friends. This is Space Tomato, and I've got you here for week 12, I believe it is, episode 12 of the Launch Sequence podcast. Hope you've been having a lovely, lovely time. This week, I'm in America. Back, finally, in the US. We're here permanently, so we've made the big move, and now we're finally going to get started on growing things and getting settled in. But of course, just got back yesterday, and the first thing we're getting to is some Star Citizen with the podcast. I've got SuperMacBrother's Ryan here with me this week for a good discussion about some Star Citizen. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Tomato, mate. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. I've been wanting to sit down and have a chat with you for a while. I watch all of your videos when they come out. I love your YouTube stuff, and I imagine you know a lot about this game, having done this for so long. You've been covering this game for how long now?
Since 2014, so about 7 years,
Since
8 years.
Since I heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So how has how has it changed for you throughout that time? I'm guessing you've only grown in excitement, right? You're still here.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been that roller coaster where the hype goes up and then, like 3.0 comes along where we're waiting a full year for a patch and the hype drops to like an all-time low. Mm-hmm. But recently it's kind of been on the rebuild rebound since 3.0. And now I think more people are more excited for it, but it's still, I think most people are just waiting for that core tech to come in before they really take a proper plunge into it. But it's been an experience, a full roller coaster from start to now. It's just even
for the people who are joining within the last 2-3 months, it's a roller coaster. A lot of times people are like, I don't know how you've been doing this for years. Crazy. It's all over the place.
It's strange, but it helps when you get new backers in as well, because it kind of rekindles that excitement that you have when you first heard, because we've become so accustomed to all of this stuff.
100%.
When a new backer comes in, it's just whoa.
This recent new wave of players coming in, not only with the increased press this summer, but also with Elite Dangerous kind of bursting at the seams a little bit as people make the transition over to Star Citizen, and it has been very exciting for the entire community. I've seen it everywhere, all corners. So that's a lot of fun. Do you play other games, or have you played other games besides Star Citizen, or is this basically dominated everything for you?
Pretty much dominated. I do still play Hell Let Loose. I play a lot of, because I just like to have an FPS game, and it was Battlefield, but I've kind of gone off them since Battlefield 4.
Okay.
I play a bit of FIFA, but I am bored of that. I'm waiting for the new one. I'm waiting until I can pick up a PlayStation 5.
The new one, the new FIFA. Yeah. That sounds like I feel like FIFA is almost like the Call of Duty of shooters.
Yeah,
they just keep releasing very similar releases.
It's like very little, and this is why I don't really play much else, because it's always the same thing. It scratches a need for me, or it scratches an itch, but everything else that I've played, I kind of jump in for a couple of hours, which is usually just before I can refund it on Steam, and then I'm bored of it. It's just rinse repeat on everything, so I tend not to play much else and just invest that time into learning more about Star Citizen. I see Star Citizen as like a long-term investment into gaming and fun. And so I would rather spend more time on Star Citizen than anything else, because games these days often do require more of a time investment. Mm-hmm. And you need to sort of pick and choose which ones you go for. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's something that occurs for a lot of creators too when it comes to Star Citizen, is that, like you said, this whole thing is a big investment, and covering the game, kind of, if you want to cover this game realistically, it takes a lot of your time away from other games. And a lot of people who follow this game are here for this game. I know I've seen Paul Astropub talk about it, Morphologist has talked about it. Now you're mentioning it, at least on the gaming side. So that is an interesting point. I certainly don't play as many games anymore as I used to, which is a bummer.
Kind of spoiled it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What is it that you're playing?
I'm always coming back to Halo whenever there's something going on with that. So with Halo Infinite starting to get a little big again, I've been hopping onto Halo Master Chief Collection on PC, and now that I'm back home, I'll be playing Halo 5 on Xbox. I also get excited for other games like Star Citizen. So one of the big ones would be Starfield, which is just an RPG. It's a single player, but the idea of the possibility of exploration and getting to visit different places. This is why I played Mass Effect. Those kinds of games have always interested me. So I'll make time for those. But like you said, they scratch an itch for the most part, and then I end up coming back to Star Citizen, even though Star Citizen abuses me.
Yeah, it's a one-way street, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. So it is a very interesting point how much time Star Citizen will take. So you generally stick to this game and this game alone, but you don't cover the game full time, right?
I do now, yeah.
You do now, okay.
It was last year, and in fact, it was something I should have probably done a long time ago, but because of COVID, the part-time job that I was working with my brother obviously had to stop because it was a retail store and we were delivering white goods. Okay. And so I just thought, right, well, I'll just stop doing that and I'll just invest all that time. And it was only 12 hours a week, I think 16 hours a week, something like that. So I invested all that time into YouTube and Twitch.
Okay.
And it's that year that it kind of took off and became a full-time thing.
Cool.
If I'd have just ditched the job in the first place, I probably would have been fine anyway. But that nerves of being forced into it was a good thing.
It works different ways for different people, I've realized, depending on your situation. And that was actually something that I kind of wanted to talk about that I don't think gets talked about at all. Now that I think of it, going back to the different podcasts and things that I listen to that have to do with Star Citizen, nobody really discusses it, and that is what it's like, or rather what it takes to run a Star Citizen YouTube channel, or at least to cover Star Citizen on YouTube, because I think it's different from other games. And you've been doing it a while. I don't know if you've ever covered any other games, but what are some of the things that you realized about doing that other people might want to realize going into it? Some tips for beginners, maybe people who want to get into the YouTube game.
I think that the difficulty was it was always a starting project was Star Citizen, so it's kind of always been almost getting there, but constantly being delayed. And so you are always going to be limited to the amount of, it's quite a niche group of people that will tune in for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A passionate group, but it's not as big as something like a COD following. But I think that kind of benefits in the sense of starting off, but then getting to a size where you're able to sort of keep it going to pay the bills is always going to be a challenge until I think it really gets to a point where there's more to it, where people, because at the moment what happens is you get a big flood of people when things are at hype, and then after the hype has dropped, or when there's another delay or things getting pushed, it can die. It can literally the views and everything drops off a lot to the point where you are sort of thinking, oh Christ, can I keep this going while it's on the down low? So I think trying to build a channel on Star Citizen alone is a good starting point because it is a niche following. You're going to have a lot of dedicated and truly passionate people to jump on. But the growth is going to be stunted until we get the release of Squadron or we get more of a fleshed out game.
Yeah, it's definitely it's cyclical, and during those down points. I mean, you're probably used to it. You recognize it. For me, at least, because I started maybe a little over a year ago or so, a couple of years ago, experiencing that for at least that first year, it was like, what is going on? You have no idea if it's because of something you did or gaming in general or just the time of year, and so that it could definitely be weird to see. And I think it's happening less because, at least compared to last year when I started, it feels like this year throughout the summer it's kind of carried through a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I don't think you ever. I'm hoping you'll get used, because I haven't got used to it yet. I suppose with it being the first year of being full time, there was more pressure on the sense that if it doesn't keep going, then oh crap, what am I going to do?
Yeah, but that's true.
So there was that anxiety, especially around Christmas time. It's sort of after Christmas it slows down. 3.14 killed a lot of the hype, and the numbers dropped a lot. They're coming back up now again, but
when those delays were announced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it will get. I will get used to it over time, and yourself will as well with just the years you put in, and you'll see the patterns.
Hmm.
But I feel like we are in a good position as a YouTube channel, rather than following a game that's been out for years. Like even something like Fallout, which has a lot of years of gameplay, even up to a decade. But if you've built your channel, that game is eventually going to die, and you're going to have to move on to something else. Whereas Star Citizen is still, after 9 years, in the foundations of the game.
Yeah.
So as the growth of a YouTube channel, we've only really got to go up, and these minor blips are only just the hype's gone. It'll come back.
Right.
But when it does come back, there's going to be a point where it'll just skyrocket up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And that's probably the most challenging part of not only running a channel, but also just anything really in general that relies entirely on you, is that it's about the consistency over the long term. Because like you said, it can only go up from here unless Star Citizen crashes and burns, which, to be honest, I don't think anybody, well, okay, a lot of people think it will. I think most people understand that it's going to turn into something, and it's on the general uptick right now. So if you stick with it, go ahead.
Sorry, you'll always question your own content. Like even you're doing everything's the same. You're doing everything the same as you did when you were getting tens of thousands of views. Suddenly there's a bit of a drop. You get a few thousand, a few hundred, and then you start thinking, "Oh my god, what am I doing wrong?" And you start looking through the comments, trying to find the problem. That's what I've stopped doing. Yeah, just not thinking about views, not thinking about comments, just doing what I enjoy, doing what I want to put out.
Figuring out ways to do what you want to in creative ways. As like challenging myself to do that has made it a lot more fun and interesting.
That's it. If it's not fun, then you what's the point,
Yeah. So, and you are, I would say, it's like, in terms of news for Star Citizen, it's like you and Board Gamer are the two best places to go. I personally enjoy yours more because you do something that I like to do, which is put the stuff that you're talking about on the screen. And I know a lot of people do appreciate that you do that. It's super helpful. It makes it more of a video than just, say, a podcast. Like, people could watch this without ever watching our faces because they don't need that. But you create these videos for news that shows what you're talking about, which is great for newcomers, great for people who have forgotten these topics. But have you ever considered doing things for Star Citizen other than news?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, just back to the whole, I love Bod. Me and Bod are good friends. We've been to events a lot. And what I like about the community of Star Citizen is there is a content creator for everybody. And people that watch Bod, people that watch Noobify might not prefer, they might not like my style, they'll prefer theirs. And I like that. And there's what I do like personally anyway, between me and the other content creators, there's no competition. We just do what we do the way we do it.
Yeah. Everybody does their own thing.
Yeah. But in regards to other content, I've been like, the news is the safe space for me. I can churn that out, and I enjoy doing that because I'm invested and I want to know myself. So I make sure I come from it from a fan perspective, and then try and put it into a digestible video.
Right.
But I want to start doing gameplay series solo as well, like Zero to Hero. I do these a bit on Twitch where I'll focus on maybe mining or hauling or something like a specific career, and try and do a Zero to Hero for that. And I've been wanting to do that on YouTube for a while now. Mining particularly at the moment, because hand mining seems to be improved in 3.14. But every time I try, it's been a while. Every time I try, something, like at the moment, I can't sell anything I've mined. For some reason, the trading is blocked in 3.14. Not trading commodities, but just selling anything. So I do want to do a proper gameplay series. I want to do more with the org. But again, I've got to feel that pull to play the game, which at the moment I'm not.
Yeah, force it.
No, and the issue with having a playable alpha is sometimes it can scar your experience and your excitement for the game. Whereas if we didn't have it, I'm pretty sure the hype will just be through the roof constantly. It's the minute people get into the PU and there's bugs and things and they maybe don't understand it, or they do, and it's just frustrating. that it kind of pulls it back.
Yeah.
But I'm wanting to do more gameplay, definitely,
Okay.
and maybe some tutorials. But I feel like at the moment you're kind of wasting your time doing tutorials because they're always changing everything.
Yeah,
the
that's like
minute
the
the
new
minute you
player
do it.
guides are great. I like to do them. They're good fun. But I was going honest, I think this was on the plane, maybe on the flight over here. I was going through my head and I'm like, when do I want to do a new player guide? Because right now, there's no point in doing it now because medical is going to come out next patch
Mm.
and the physical inventory is going to come out. That's going to change everything. So then do it
Oh
next
god, yeah,
patch? No, but then what if salvage comes out at the end of the year? And
yeah.
then, okay, fine, we'll wait till the next patch. What if they put in jump points? It's like, when do I do it? Because it's always going to be, yeah, I get what you mean. Um, but that's cool to hear that you're going to do some gameplay stuff. I really enjoy watching that kind of stuff. That's something
Mm.
that I see people do a lot for games like DayZ or
Yeah,
Rust, like the survival type games. You see people doing those sort of like, okay, I'm going to do this for a week and then post this series of it. I like that kind of stuff, and I
yeah.
think Star Citizen could be really good for that.
I think like as well as because it's such an immersive game.
Hmm.
It's using Toby, using Hotas, and like for me personally, you know, when you're streaming, you try and think, right, there's people watching. They don't want to see me just walking around everywhere. I need to sprint everywhere I'm going to get stuff. But at the end
Yeah,
of the day, we're all here because we like. Well, most of us do like the immersion that they create. So I tend to take my time and I walk and I look and I take things in, and that's kind of what I want to portray in this gameplay series. Is not exactly role play, but embedding myself into the verse as that character, not putting on accents or you know that kind of thing, but just
yeah.
being me in the verse as if I was actually there.
Just in
Um,
playing the game as somebody who enjoys it.
yeah, literally just playing it as
Yeah.
simple as possible, with a bit of a purpose being the zero to hero. So at least new backers or people who are a bit like I don't know what to do because I'm bored
Hmm.
can at least pursue that
Yeah.
vein. But
That's
then, sorry, go on.
no. I was going to agree with you. That's
Mm,
I think most people would agree that that is the 100% type of content that I want to see. Sure, you know the channel Bed Bananas, who
yeah.
releases very few videos, but so far the two videos they've done with Star Citizen people have loved because it's a little fan. It's got good editing. It's got great editing. It's obviously
Yeah.
it's a little scripted, but it just shows the game being played, and that's all people really want to see.
Yeah, showing it in its best light
Yeah,
as much as possible.
yeah,
But yeah, I do plan to do. I've started a couple of series where I'm looking at the ships of the roadmap,
mm,
and I do tend to break down a lot of the mechanics that are coming in to try and speak about them specifically, rather than just being news. It's kind of this is how this is going to evolve because I think I'm lucky in the sense that I've been here from the beginning, so I understand Chris's vision
yeah.
from those days when he was, answering all our questions and just saying yes. Like the idea of where they want to take things is still in there, and there's new people coming, so they don't know about the depth of components and
That
engineering and
yes, that
materials.
is so important. And
Yeah.
people, I know people get on Jared's case for saying things over and over again in his videos, but like it's how it's got to be because
Yeah.
this game is just it's not quite exploding, but it's just consistently growing so much that there are always people coming in and like you said,
Mm.
that's probably a huge advantage of being here for the long run. It's like you know exactly what the details are calling for. And I
Mm.
try to put that in my own videos. I have not been around as long as you have, but I do notice that people do appreciate that, getting some of that context.
Mm. Yeah. Well, it's nice for me to remember because you do forget, and then the topic will come up again, and you think, "Oh Christ, yeah, this is what they want to do with refining or mine,"
Right.
and you just
Yeah.
think, "Oh man, I can't wait for that." And then
Yeah.
and instead of it being years down the line, it is kind of this year, next year. They're building them now, you know.
Isn't it great? We've been talking about
Yeah.
years for so long, and now we're finally kind of talking about months. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
a little tear. So, so going back to that idea though of how detailed this all is, for newcomers, this can sometimes throw people off because, like you said, you know the vision, you know where it's headed, but they do these really, really detailed things now, early
Mm.
on, that don't seem to make sense because, like, we don't have the supporting features to get around them. Um, but they're part of the overall plan. Now,
Yeah.
this can be things. like I don't know, like the fact that they're going to put in Death of a Spaceman, or they're going to start to put it in the next couple
Mm.
updates, which is super super detailed, granular health and death kind of mechanics. And people are like, why are you going to put that in now? We have glitches. This is going to be a huge problem.
Yeah.
But would you say that having all of that detail, and I think one of the examples I told you was the idea that cities have signs that show you where to go, but it's not super obvious and people get lost a lot. Do you think all of these kinds of super detail oriented parts of the game are worth it, considering all the new players who might get turned off from it?
I do. I mean, at the end of the day, this game is, as we've said, a niche, and I think a lot of people are drawn in by the the graphics, the scale,
Yeah.
and the hype of it. But at the end of the day, it's always supposed to be about the most immersive experience ever, and the minor details are what make it that. And I think it would be a completely different feeling without those minor details. And as the game does expand, they will begin to make a lot more sense. Like at the moment, the cities are quite small, people still get lost in them, so signage is helpful. It's literally it's doing the job that it's intended to.
Yeah.
And I think there is like a bit of a limit as to, when do we bring certain things in, like Death of a Spaceman. If you're dying constantly due to bugs, it can be a bit of a problem. But at the end of the day, that's the way I see the alpha that we have is just that. It's a test bed. It's for them to try things, for us to be a QA team of massive scale.
Mm-hmm.
And to experience it. The fact that it is fun sometimes is actually a blessing in my opinion, and I just enjoy playing it sometimes and sometimes I don't. But yeah, I think the small details are what really make this game something super special, because it's the micro and the macro. They're not just bringing in the big guns, like quadrillion thousand planets or what. It's not just that's selling it. It's the finer details of, you can look at a weapon and see it degrade, and you can replace components that are setting fire to it. Like that level of detail is just beyond anything else I've seen.
That's a good point. It's because so often, and there's been a bit of kickback to this recently, but so often games have been graded on how big they are. 3 times the size of the last map, like, oh, we're twice the size of our the first game in the series. And you're like, okay, cool, but like, what is there to do? We got stuck in this RPG cycle. People call it the Ubisoft model of like, you got some sort of a tower that you have to scale, you discover parts of the map, you go find collectibles, and you keep doing that forever and ever. And people have gotten kind of tired of that. And, this game will then get compared to something like Elite Dangerous, which is huge and expansive and is great for its own thing. Exploring in that game is awesome. But then you come to a Star Citizen and you get that sort of different experience of, you don't need to go everywhere. You can sit here, you can admire all the things around you and get to enjoy that. That's a super good point. This game is very much focused on not being expansive, I feel, but also being expansive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like, since this dawn of procedural generation, they did the obvious, like No Man's Sky Elite. They just created countable amounts of planets,
right,
that at the end of the day sound impressive, but what use are they if A, you're not going to be able to visit them all anyway, and B, if there's nothing there to do? Whereas CIG are creating a big, in comparison to Elite, or it's tiny.
Yeah, but relatively speaking, it's very big.
But it's still big, yeah. And but it's going down to this small detail. You've got these huge gas giants, these huge planets, which are monstrous, and you can put everyone on these planets, and you will still not be able to see each other on a single planet. But yet you can go and you can pick a flower down there. You can grab some fruit. That sort of detail on both scales is what makes Star Citizen special. It's all well and good having all the planets in the world and more. Maybe not more, I don't know. But we need that. Those details, I think, are what makes Star Citizen. The small details are what make it.
It's like taking a hybrid of new technology, combining it with how we used to do it, and like making a better product, rather than, like you said, all this procedural generation became a big deal, so people jumped all in on it. But CIG is kind of taking a step back, and they're saying, okay, we're going to procedurally generate some of it, but then we're also going to use our artists to make it much more detailed and interesting. It's like another market that I like to follow really closely is smartphones. And with smartphones, they started to incorporate all these different versions of bendable glass that didn't break, and you could put it in all these different shapes for phones, and it was cool, but it was gimmicky because
Yeah.
everybody just went all in on new technology. But now you have these new phones that are coming out. You got Samsung putting out some amazing phones this year that are foldable, bendable, but they're practical and they're really good products. Well, I don't actually know, they're not out yet, but I assume they're very good products compared to what we used to get. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
just a good analogy to show that Siege has kind of refined this stuff down to a much better form for us to enjoy.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, when it was first concepted, like when I jumped on Star Citizen, we weren't even going to have procedural planets.
Yeah.
It was literally these sort of 2D objects or 3D objects that you'll go down. Even going down on rails wasn't supposed to be a thing. It was more of a loading screen. And then we saw the ArcCorp
Yeah.
rail takedown on the Constellation, and it was like, what, mind blown.
Yeah.
That's a landing zone. And then they're like, oh, well, we found we can do procedural generation, which was at the time like a big explosion of hype.
Yeah.
Because the possibilities. But they say they don't just want to press a button and then there you go, there's your universe. They want to really shape them. And if you look at Nyx, the latest, have you seen it? The latest Nyx
photos they put out, yeah.
Like the sheer depth that they go to when you are down on a planet walking around is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And yet there are already 12 moons, 4 planets. Well, I say 4, there's 2 you can probably explore. Compared to, I'd much rather experience that one system in all its glory than all of any of the games procedurally generated, algorithmic, that make no sense. Like animals, for example.
Yeah.
When, like, No Man's Sky animals are just an amalgamation of all these different assets. Yeah, blending them into the ecosystem, where they live, what they eat, it all makes sense to that planet. That's just beyond.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There was, I was talking, this will probably take us a little off topic, but I like this topic. I was listening to this AI Star Citizen live talk on my flight, and they were talking about, oh man, what were they? It went really well with Tony Zervik's recent talk about virtual NPCs and how they'll drop in and out of subsumption versus virtual in order to sort of continue to create a convincing area where, like, a pirate went from this station to this station and showed up here and all that. And then they were that combined with the dynamic character generator they're talking about. It was in the monthly report. Back to this Star Citizen Live episode, they were discussing how you'll have, like, say, a crew on your ship. And this is a crew that it's not necessarily like you go and you pick off a board, hey, here's these 4 people. They are 3 stars in quality, and they're going to get the job done for you in this amount of time. They were like, each of these people has their affinities. They have what they're good at. They have what they like. This person is less aggressive, so they like to go for mining jobs. And if you search that person out and you decide that you want to get them for an escort, they won't do very well. And then they go on to talk about how this will all be incorporated in your crew and how they work together. My first thought is, that's crazy. That's never going to work. You can't do that. But my second thought, as they keep talking about it and they don't back down from it, is like, this is insane. Yeah. Like you said, we've got 12 moons already. We've got a whole first system. We've got enough space for a game. And they're talking about, like, how they're going to fill all these systems with all this stuff. Everybody's so focused on the idea of adding new planetary systems, 2 systems, 3 systems, 100 systems. I'm like, listen to what they're doing with AI. The detail is incredible.
The whole AI, I feel for CIG and particular Chris Roberts in this regard, because obviously when it goes to the live servers, the degradation of the server, the desync, it causes so many problems for AI that we barely see NPCs working as intended, and they're always a mess. They're always bouncing back and forth. But I don't know how powerful subsumption is, because we've never really seen it in full action.
No.
And like you say, when you combine that with the virtual AI and the quanta and how they're going to be flying around in the background, and then you get into a probability volume, and then suddenly these AI spawn in, it all makes such logical sense that it must work. But the way, like, the like every AI will have its traits, its behaviors, things it prefers, things like its character, and that will reflect, as you say, what they're good at, what they're bad at.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are obviously really interested in NPC crews. Some people who prefer to solo and not multi-crew will require them. But just seeing them going about their day to day in the general population, it's going to be. I will literally just follow a single NPC and just see what he does, see how he reacts. And I feel like they are really, as always, pushing the boundaries of everything they do, but AI specifically. But we are just yet to see that.
Yeah.
Because of the limitations.
I'll tell you what, we've seen plenty of videos from other games like Red Dead Redemption 2 where people will just follow the NPCs around and show them off. If they can do what they want to do with this AI in Star Citizen, there's going to be a whole genre of those videos. Just every type of NPC, they're going to follow it around, document what it's doing. That's going to be hilarious. But yeah, I agree. The fact that we haven't actually gotten to see subsumption working is probably the one thing holding me back from being like, okay, this is going to be good, because we've been seeing subsumption for so long. I think I have video footage of it from 2017, maybe 2016, and they've talked about it quite a bit, and they're working on AI behaviors. Seeing it is going to be another step in that process, though.
Yeah, I think the issue as well is frick, I've just lost my train of thought.
No problem.
It was super important, I tell you. It was definitely
no
super
problem.
important.
Maybe you'll remember it. We were talking about, though. Oh man, now you made me lose my train. We were talking about the AI system, how they'll be working in crews. I can't remember, honestly.
No, I can't. We'll move on. If it comes back, I'll interrupt.
But the idea that they are putting together all of these systems and everything, you mentioned animals, aliens. That's something that people are really excited for. I've never actually cared that much for. Are you interested in that?
I am massively, because it just creates that immersion again. It's like instead of just creating a space for us to enjoy doing things in, like FPS or mining or salvaging. They're creating this world that if the player wasn't there, I have remembered what I was going to say. If the player wasn't there, the worlds would just continue on as normal because the NPCs are perfectly happy. The ecosystem of the animals moving around will manage themselves, and then they will react to the player. That's more of what they're building. They're not building things to specifically interact with the players. They're building a full-on living, breathing world that will react around what the player does.
Right.
But what I was going to say is that there's such a significance and importance on the AI, which is the subsumption system, because even way back in, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2013, I can't remember when it was specifically said, but the population is going to be 90% AI and 10% is going to be the players. So whatever the population of player grows to, it's going to continue to grow to 90% of the rest of the population of the verse.
In terms of the simulation side of it.
Yes, yeah. So the fact that you are constantly going to be interacting with NPCs and different AI types, it needs to be good. Because if everything else is to this standard of polish and detail, and then the AI are just flopped, the
whole game will fall apart.
Skyrim style. Yeah, exactly. It just won't it won't match. It won't correlate. So it is super important.
This game is a house of cards with these systems.
Yeah.
It really is.
They're just gluing them into place.
Yeah. I hope that glue sticks. I really do. There's so many incredible systems they're working on, and I'm just like tying this all together and keeping it running is a monumental task. I remember I was thinking earlier, actually, in this conversation, we were talking about scale and how the game's going to grow and all that stuff. And I was looking at how they're growing the team and how they're setting up the game and the longevity it feels like they're putting into these systems. This feels like it's going to be so much more than just this one single MMO. Not in the sense that they're going to start releasing movies and all this kind of stuff. It just feels like they're setting it up to be more of an experience than just a game, in the sense that you're going to be more wrapped up in it than just logging on for a few hours to play the game. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but there's just so much going into this game.
Yeah, it is, and that's kind of how I see even the alpha now. Like, this is the difference of why I pretty much can't play much else. Everything else feels like a game, and it serves the purpose as a game. You know, any game I play, like I do plan on picking up the next Far Cry. I haven't played Far Cry 5, so I'm going to pick that up and play through it. But it's a game. It feels like a game. It feels great because it looks amazing and it plays well, but then it gets rinse repeat. All the same problems of a game start arising, and I get bored of it. Star Citizen and the PU, when it works, is an experience. It is exactly an experience, and it's more than just gameplay. You feel like you want to invest your time and your soul
You just sell your soul. Take me. You definitely get like I don't think I've ever felt a stronger sense of community in a game. That's for sure.
Oh
Now,
god,
I've
no.
never really been involved in MMOs. I've mostly been a console player, shooters,
Mm.
racing games, RPGs, stuff like that. But I have been on forums, on the game's websites, Reddit. Obviously, back in the day when people actually used their microphones in multiplayer, I was in that as well. Never really
Mm.
felt the same as it does with Star Citizen, and I really do hope that the VoIP experience in Star Citizen gets better so that we can start to experience that more in game.
Yeah,
Because
I'm exactly the same as you. I was a console gamer until 2012, funnily enough, and then I bought an Alienware X51 and for Armor, funnily enough, and then I saw Star Citizen, and then it's just kind of waned off that way.
took
But
everything from you.
oh, yeah, but yeah, I agree. And I also think as well in terms of timescale. If you look at games these days like World of Warcraft, even the Armor series, and there are many more that I can't think of, but they have minimum a decade of lifespan, 2 decades.
Yeah,
I mean, World of Warcraft has been going 20
Warcraft. Yeah,
years, or is it longer?
Eve was big.
Yeah. I
You got
mean,
like Ark, Rust. Like, yeah, all these games are gonna last much longer than 10 years. Absolutely.
yeah. And so Star Citizen, which is being built for longevity, as you mentioned. So they're building systems that can be built upon and changed and updated. Even graphics can be swapped in and out with textures and materials and things. I honestly see this being a game that I will play up until the day that I decide I've no longer want to be around. And that, like we're talking, hopefully, well, I mean, I won't go into numbers, but I am thinking, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, this game will keep going. I honestly believe so.
I can definitely see decades, and it's crazy to me that you'll go into if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this wherever, go onto any Star Citizen video from a major gaming news publication, Polygon, IGN, Games Radar, anything like that, and most of the first comments you see will be something about how their grandchildren are going to play it, or they're going to get out of cryo sleep and play it, or something like that. And while they're jokes, I legitimately believe that our kids will have the ability to play this game, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Like, joke's on you, you're actually going to leave your account in the will and your children and they are going to, as much as you're joking, yes, it's true, it
Yeah.
will.
And it's honestly, as morbid as it is, it's a reality right now. I know people who have passed their accounts on to others, and it's sad that happens with plenty of things, honestly. But I can see that happening for decades to come with this game, which is crazy to me. I never thought that was going to be a thing. I thought games would last 5 years or 6 years all the time.
Well, that's it, they used to, didn't they? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So let's see. Let's get into. I want to talk a little bit about well, actually, before we get into this last week, because we had some interesting stuff going with the roadmap and whatnot this last week. We were talking about the detail, and I got into a little bit about the AI and how they're going to have this complex generation system, and we're hearing about different behaviors, very specific behaviors, like down to the point where, oh yeah, when you respawn, this nurse is going to be working at her thing, doing all the details, or oh yeah, when you walk past this vendor, because he's a more excited vendor, he's more higher on the excitement scale, he'll call out to you and try to get your attention. They talk about how these NPCs are going to be very detailed, how these places are going to have all this cool stuff, rivers and lava and boats and like all these really fun details. Are
Take
you
my
still
money.
are you still feeling the are you still feeling the feature creep in that?
I it's funny because back in the day when he was doing the stretch goals, and I think it got to 65 million, and they were like, okay,
All right, yeah, we're good.
Creeping now, yeah, let's build something. I think they made the right decision there, and it did feel a little like, okay, you keep saying yes to everything, but you haven't actually built anything. Whereas now, a lot of the stuff that partly feature creep, a lot of it is stuff that is probably necessary for things like Squadron 42. So to us, seeing it come in the PU is a bit like, what use is this like in the PU right now? Which it isn't, but it's ready because Squadron needs it. They need it testing. They're going to put it into the PU,
right?
And we'll put it through its paces. And I think, as much as I do think there is somewhat of a feature creep going, where there, certain things that aren't necessarily now for the PU to make it, a better experience are coming in, and I would be like, I don't care. I'm happy to not have that. The majority of them, I really want. So I'm happy for them to put them in, to test it, to just mess around with it. But whether they're necessary now or not is a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it definitely comes down to whether you even view the future creep as positive or negative. Some people, and I sympathize with this. I won't necessarily say I subscribe to this line of thought, but I do understand it. Some people want to see this just grow forever. Literally, constantly, new features, new additions, new things coming in. I personally would like to set a bar and then say once we pass that bar, we extend it. But the reason I asked that and the reason I phrased it the way I did is because I kind of got into this a little bit. We know things are going to be in the game, and you can say, we're going to have planet tech. We're going to have dynamic planets. And people will be like, okay, that sounds great. I can't wait for 5 years from now when we have a ton of planets. But in between those 5 years, they can constantly be like, in those dynamic planets, we're also going to have basins, and we're going to have reservoirs, and we're going to have rivers and geysers and volcanoes and earthquakes. And you're like, so this was all included in that package, but it wasn't explicitly stated as being that feature. And so when I hear some of this stuff about, like I was saying, NPCs and how detailed they'll be in their actions and the things they do, when they first said it and they were like, we're going to have very detailed and lifelike NPCs, I was like, okay, that's chill. That's cool. But then they kind of have the freedom to expand on that as much as they want to. And I wonder how people view that in terms of the feature creep subject.
Yeah. I think a lot of things can seem like feature creeping, but we're already necessary. We're already planned. But also, I think a lot of the issue is we kind of see one thing coming. Like, for example, you look at the roadmap, salvage will be delayed, NPC hygiene will come in, and everyone's just like, why have they swapped that for that? Which isn't the case. It's just everyone is working on what they need to be working on to create a multiplayer universe, but also Squadron 42, which is why we do see a lot of these anomalies coming in, because we're not seeing a lot of what's going on with these things, with the Squadron. But the people working on them, it's not like they're putting stuff on the back burner because that, we need hygiene now. It's all part and parcel of the big thing. And I think, as hard as it is, Squadron does drive a lot of the stuff, and a lot of it we don't need for a, tier 1 or a 1.0 of the PU. But if it needs to be done, put it in there anyway.
Right.
But, I do kind of feel like there has been a bit of a feature creep, and things do look like they're feature creeping. But I think they're all actually part and parcel of everything that we need anyway. And, I'm of the thing of definitely keep growing the game. But like you say, I would like to get to a point where it's released and it's playable, which I think they are doing now, quality of life and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then bring in the rest of the stuff. But I think they are doing that.
They're definitely doing better at that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when there is new stuff popping up on the roadmap, like you said, generally, or not the roadmap, sorry, the progress tracker. Generally, I could, look at what's going on with Squadron 42 and be like, I could see how that might be needed. And once Squadron 42 comes out, that'll be a big teller of if they were or not. But I get where you're coming from with that. Now let's talk a little bit about what actually happened this week in Star Citizen, because there were some pretty cool developments. I didn't really get to see much because I was on the plane and I was packing and all this stuff. They added some good stuff to the roadmap, right?
Yeah,
you actually covered in a recent video. If you don't know SuperMacBrothers, very good content creator for Star Citizen, as we talked about earlier in the episode. Puts out, I think, 3 videos a week, something like
It
that.
varies. It could be 3, 4, even 5, depending on what's coming.
Multiple videos a week. We'll keep you up to date on all the details, Star Citizen. So definitely check out his channel. I'll leave it in the show notes and the video description down below if you guys would like to check it out. But anyways, I saw that you put out a good video talking about the different roadmap changes that we had this week. And I very briefly was able to drop into the Reddit bubble of hype and disappointment and see that we were currently on a hype level. we were at the top of the hill, and people were real pumped for some of the ships coming up. What are you getting from these updates? Well, what were the updates, and what are you getting from them?
So I suppose the hype tickets are the RSI Orion, the Starliner, the the Genesis Starliner. Those two, I think, because they are quite old concept ships. There's a lot of hype behind them. They're big industrial ships. We all want industry now. We've seen a lot of fighter ships. A lot of us do want more of that industry fleshed out.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yes, I'm so tired of seeing combat ships.
I know, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the combat side of things, but sometimes you just get bored of it, and you think, I want that nice construction thing.
Combat is like the thing that is lowest on my list of things I want to do in this game, because I can go play combat in other games. I mean, I know it'll be different in this one, but like, I don't get the chance to be a space miner. I want to mine some space rock, you know? But anyways, keep going. Sorry.
Definitely. No, definitely. I completely agree. And that's the thing is, as much as Star Citizen's combat will eventually get to the point where it is, I hope, better than most out there, it's still, I do want to see that, mining and salvaging and refining and on construction.
Yeah.
So there's those two ships. What am I on here? Am I on the right page? Roadmap. Yes, I am. A lot of ammunition types, which I get excited for. You've got plasma, incendiary, disarray. I get excited for those because of the material system.
Yeah, that's I think a good point. That's a bigger deal than just the fact that they have new types of damage. That means that they're thinking about armor, because they had that big talk at CitizenCon. I think it might have been 2019, where they talked about armor. They talked about how they were going to start to work on different damage types, how it would work against your armor, mostly FPS they were talking about, but also ships, obviously, and that most of these suits would be powered in order to handle, different elements and all this stuff. And the fact that they finally have damage types coming on is
But it's and also like the incendiary thing, we've been seeing time and time again on Inside Star Citizen fire propagation and mechanics, which is insane. That again, this sort of small details, those small details will make tackling a fire just above anything like engineering wise.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be a whole game loop. Going to put out fires.
You're going to be a really highly skilled firefighter, and that is going to be your job on the Orion when people mess around with the mining laser.
Oh my gosh. Or you might need to be a firefighter on every other ship near it when they're messing around with the mining laser.
Yeah, I'm on call. I'm here when you need me.
The Orion that's a huge freaking ship. That's like one of the biggest ships to be in the game, right? Now that it's being worked on.
Yeah. I don't even know what its size grew to, because it was practically doubled in size, and it was a big ship to start with. Yeah, I'm sure someone will comment with the actual size of it.
Freaking behemoth. And the fact that that's on the progress tracker hopefully means that they are looking seriously at greatly expanding mining. I know they said recently that mining is in a good place, and I'm like, okay, yeah, for small ships, sure, for now. Yeah. I definitely want to see mining expanded, not only in the idea of mining out nodes off of asteroids and places, and not just the asteroids themselves, but also we're going to have massive deposits. And it sounds like that's kind of waiting for Quasar and the ability for persistence and all of that, but we need massive deposits if we're going to have the Orion.
Yeah, like you say, I think it is waiting for this persistence where they can bring in a finite amount of resources in this particular asteroid or in this particular asteroid. And of course, you can look at what we have now in the PU and think, well, the Orion won't work, but they know that. That's part of the plan is to expand the resource generation of the planet. As I say, have it finite, so when they do create a planet, you've got this much gold in this location, and again, like their intention is when it comes to mining. Obviously, the Orion isn't a planet mining ship, but when it comes to mining, the expeditions of going out and mining a resource on a planet or even in an asteroid could take days, like literal days. You'll log in, you'll build a little hub where you can log out and store your things and sleep and whatnot, and then come back again day after day and mine it out until it's gone. It is a huge ship for a huge system, and as much as the actual process of mining and now refining is at a good place, they know it's not finished, but I think the biggest change of that will, as we're saying, will just be the resources, distributing the finite of them.
Absolutely. And then there's also the Starliner. Both of these things being worked on speak towards new gameplay loops that I'm not sure will be in when the ship is made, but they, at least speak towards them concepting out what they want to do with them, which is very cool. I understand the hype there. Definitely. Besides that, we also got some new features, it looks like.
315 has been chonked, I think.
Which I don't think many people were. People were usually expecting it to get much smaller. The fact that they didn't, did they remove anything from 315 this last week?
Yeah, they did, and it's unfortunately a decent one. It's ship interior object container streaming. Ooh. So culling the interior of ships that aren't. It's a performance thing. It'll make things smoother. But,
and that's been pushed a few times now.
Yeah, I mean, they say other core tech took priority, which it would be nice if they did specify that core tech, so we could be like, not so that we could be like, well, I disagree, I wish, but just so that we have an indication as to what they're doing.
Providing context to it is super nice when we can go out to thousands of people and be like, hey, they pushed this feature, sorry, and we can't tell them why. But
the amount of hate you get sometimes, it's just like, it wasn't my choice.
Oh my gosh. Or the amount of, what really drives me nuts are the people who make the comments that encapsulate everything people feel negatively about the game, but nobody's saying because it's all well known and it's all understood. Like somebody comes on and they're like, oh, but can I play the game if I'm going to fall out of my bed or not be able to open my mobiGlass or this or that? And I'm like, no, you're not, because it sucks and you can't. I know. You don't have to get on my case about it.
Don't remind me. I'm just as upset as you are.
We're all playing the same game. It's a bummer, but that sucks to lose. But I'm guessing the core tech is probably something quantum or server meshing or something related to this.
In the video, I just said at this point, any core tech is important. Yeah. I'll take any of it. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll just take it.
It's kind of stacked up. Like we're waiting for iCache, persistent inventories, or rather persistent streaming, hangers, quantum, Gen 12. There's just like you could have an infographic of terms that you need to wait to get into Star Citizen.
These terms are all drinking games now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just anytime you hear any of them.
Yeah. I think it's really the end of the year is going to be pretty telling because we know that Gen 12 and iCache are both being implemented. We know that persistent streaming there's a good possibility it'll be in by the end of the year. And we're definitely going to get a good talk about server meshing at SitCon. So I think we'll be in a better place at the end of the year to understand what's going on.
Definitely. I think at this time, it's like, I think they said that they're aiming to get global persistence by the end of the year, and whatever progress they can make on server meshing will be a blessing, but getting the update at CitizenCon, I think these updates obviously really help calm us all down because they can go months without hearing a thing. We're all just like, where is it? What's happening? And then Tony Z will come on and we'll be mesmerized for about an hour. And then it's like, okay, fair enough.
We'll be like, Tony Z, thank you. Just sit back in the chair, slowly shrink away. Okay, I'm good now. So in terms of the features that we've seen come in with this recent update this last week, one of the big ones, we've heard a little bit about this, was persistent hangers. And they first brought this on, they actually put out a little disclaimer for us, I believe, that they were like, this isn't personal hangers. These aren't the hangers that you guys have been waiting for. But then they've, with this new edition, gone into a little bit of detail. They've talked more about what we should expect, and they're talking about how, okay, yeah, this is your center for cargo. Only you have access. Nobody else can really get into it. You can leave your cargo there. You can leave your stuff there, your ships there. Everything will be as you left it. And I'm like, that's basically a personal hangar, right? We're saying
Yeah,
this is what we want. It's not everything, but it's the valuable part, at least in my opinion. And it seems
yeah.
like a big feature.
It's just you don't technically, you haven't paid for it, you don't rent it, you don't own it, but everything else generally works the same. But the way that they're setting it up, like one of the aspects, because obviously they're doing it in a faked way this time round. I think they do, if they can, and they can find a way to do it, they would want to physicalize them all, but I'm okay with them if they just stick with
just kind of moving them around.
Instant. Yeah, because like they say, they're gonna give you like a specific entrance that you will probably share with, I don't know, 10 other people, 20, 30 other people. But at the same time, it feels like you are going back and forth to the same place. You're not going to be feeling that it's just been pulled out of nothingness and now it's here. But I think as the it's going to feel great having them, because it is a place to go back to. At the moment, the hubs, you can't even get back in. As soon as you step outside,
it's no longer yours.
Yeah. So having something like this where you can go and you can drop stuff off, you can come back to, you can just sit inside and just stare at your ships like we used to in the hangar module. I feel like that is going to add a lot more personality, even though they're not personal hangars, but it'll add that personal touch to it. And that's really important in this game specifically.
It's going to be the actual first time that we have a physical place that we can just know is there, that we can rely on. And that we can look at our ships and not get it stored for taking too long.
Yeah, and because at the moment we kind of, wherever I am in the verse, if I finish playing or Rachel says dinner's ready or whatever, I'll just alt F4. I don't even log out because there doesn't feel a need to, but I'll actually be returning back to a specific, like I'll be flying back to Orison or New Babbage, going to my own personal spot and offloading all the crap I've just collected. And that, I think, is going to really change how we feel about the alpha, the PU at that time.
Yeah, 100%. That's going to add that, combined with the persistent inventory, or like the localized inventories rather, is going to add so much more feeling of responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, actually, now when I do log into the game, I'm planning like a mining expedition or whatever, just even on my own. I'll get some med pens, I'll get some ammunition, I'll get a suit for the place. I have to think about what I'm doing and I have to set it up accordingly. And that's, we don't have half the subjects yet that we need. So when the game gets to this point of having personal inventory, even a cargo refactor and, persistent hangars, I will be, with all of my crewmates, just be like, right, has everyone got enough med pens? Have we all got enough ammunition? Someone put some ammunition on the ship. Let's make sure we've got everything we need. Setting it up and then going. I can't wait for that day. I really can't.
Whenever I hear somebody actually describe playing this game in the future, I once again, I just drop into this zone of how the heck is this gonna work? This gonna take there's like you were just saying, we have nothing in this game, and you already have to consider the suit you're wearing. You have med pens, you have oxy pens. We're not even dealing with how our ships run, how our mining stuff runs. Is the place we're going to dangerous? I'm just like, it's gonna take so many people. It's crazy. This game's nuts.
It is, yeah. It really is.
Another big feature. Just a lot of big features that got added. The medical gameplay. This wasn't just added, but the locations, the hospitals that they're putting together. We've been hearing a lot about these space station clinics that they've been making on the monthly reports as well. And I think that is super, super nice to hear that they're working on another reason for us to want to actually go inside of space stations and not just use them to spawn at.
Yeah, the kind of creating, it's that physicality of a location where, and it's logical as well, which it makes sense that if you want med pens, you're going to have to go to the clinic. You're going to have to go to the pharmacy to get them.
Right.
You don't, I mean,
the ammo store.
Yeah. And the same goes for all these other devices we need. There's physical locations to go. If you need med pens, right, send one of your crewmates to go and get a box full of med pens or medical guns or whatever, so that they can bring them back. And hospitals, the whole experience of what it sounds like it's going to be when you wake up, as we were discussing just before we started about the doctors and nurses.
Yeah, the detail, again.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. It is not necessary right now at all to have a doctor greet you and say, hey, go and get your clothing.
Yeah.
Watching a nurse in the background messing with whatever. It's not necessary at all. But Chris Roberts is a director, producer of film. He likes his cinematography. He wants that immersion and that experience. And I think as much as we could be like, just bring it in. Just bring the thing in. Leave the doctors and nurses. When it does come, we're going to be like, okay, fair enough. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a certain type of person. And this is something we didn't really talk about today. But it's a certain type of person who really, really... A lot of people are going to like this game. But there's a certain type of person who is going to become obsessed with this game. And
that's me.
I feel like, yeah, that's me too. I think that's a lot of the people who are currently putting up with all of the crap for the last several years.
It's a good sign.
But there's a certain type of person who's just going to get drawn into it. And that's who the game's being made for. And I hope that never changes.
Well, yeah, funnily enough, like, Chris is making Chris's game. And it's always been that. And as much as we are helping to help guide that and put our input in, he is sticking to guns of making the game that he's always wanted. And from the day one of hearing what his vision is, it's only just gotten better from then.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it is as I think I said it earlier, it is a niche game, and there's a lot of people jumping in now because of how cool it looks, who will probably get really frustrated with the finite details, the constant care of things.
You can already see it.
Yeah, no, definitely. As they start introducing these new systems, you see some people have just been like, why are they doing this? And like, they've been in for 2 months and they're like, they shouldn't do this. They need to stop doing this and focus on. And you think, try being here for 8 years and feeling that way.
Yeah,
but it is.
I think the game as it is progressing, or at least as it will be in the future, there will be a place for those people. The people who don't like all of the stuff they're adding, they can literally look at 5% segment of the game and be like, this is enough for me to have fun. Hey, they took theaters of war and basically put it into the game. I can go to planets and fight people. That's all I need. I don't need all this other, I don't need quantum fuel. I don't need medical gameplay. I don't need all that. I just want to play this one simple part of the game. I think that's going to be super key for them to do with this game, is to make it so that people don't have to get super involved to play it.
I mean, that is pretty much the biggest selling point of the game, is that there is something for everyone, and if there's something you don't want to do, you can hire someone else to do it,
right,
or have a friend who will do that. And that's there will be people who will literally just be an engineer, spend the whole time of every engagement, every mission in the guts of the ship, just making sure that it's purring as it should do.
Yeah. People who
that is perfectly fine.
Never come back to civilized space. They just go to unexplored systems. They salvage ships. They never move away from one reclaimer after the next, one captain after the next. There are people who that's their dream.
That's what will make this game so beautiful, as well as that every time you encounter someone, a real player or an NPC, a real player, they'll be doing the same thing. Even now, I fly down to an outpost, and I'm there maybe doing a delivery box mission. There's someone landing, running in to get an ROC, and then loading it up, and then off they go. And they're off, doing their own thing.
Doing their thing, yeah, living life. Yeah, that's something that's always been missing from games. You said this earlier. They're building a bunch of NPCs they're building a world that functions without you. And that feeling that you are amongst all these other people functioning in this space, doing these crazy things without you, and you could just meet up, learn their story, join them if you want, is one of the best parts of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a good place for us to wrap up to today. We're coming over the hour, so it's getting a little bit long. But this has been great. SuperMac, thank you so much for dropping by. It's a great conversation. We'll have to do this again soon.
100%. Thank you, mate.
We also need to hop in on a stream sometime or something. I'll be more consistent now that I've kind of moved back to the States and I've got a better idea of what's going on, but we'll have to meet up for a stream at some point.
Hopefully it'll work.
Thank you again for hopping on this podcast, man, talking some Star Citizen with me. It's been a good time. If you all don't know, like I said, SuperMacBrothers Ryan, awesome dude, makes some great videos. Go check him out on YouTube. Check him out on
Thank
Twitch as
you.
well. Anywhere else? Tell us where you are. Actually, go ahead and you plug your stuff.
I think it's just YouTube is Super Mac Brothers or Super Mac Brother. I might have knocked the S off because he's no longer helping. It's
Yeah,
another
actually,
story.
I was gonna ask about that. I forgot to, but we'll have to talk about that at some point because I've always been curious about the name.
Yeah, it's not exciting. It's basically we used to have a YouTube channel a long while ago where we did everything before Star Citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Life took over for him. I transitioned to Star Citizen, and then he just didn't have the time to do it. So it started off as Super Mac Brothers because our surname, but now it's just Mac Brother really.
I see. You just stuck with it.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But the name now makes no sense, and everyone wonders why.
Yeah, I was always curious. I was like, "Where's the other brother?"
Yeah, no, he's still
Okay.
around. He's still.
Yeah.
And then Twitch is Super Mac Brothers Ryan, which I will at one point reduce the name because it's stupid long. Stupid
It's a
long name.
long URL. Yeah, I had to change
Yeah.
mine because somebody else took Space Tomato. Now I'm Space Tomato Gaming on there, and I'm like, I mean, I guess.
It's a mouthful of it. When
Yeah,
you're on a podcast and people are having to type out the names of the creators, it's like, fuck, just
yeah,
put Ryan SMB. It's so
yeah.
much easier.
That's. I wish I could just be like, I don't know. I'll pay a blanket amount for everybody to just let me have Space Tomato, please. Because it's so many
Yeah.
people. They're like, they have Space Tomato, and I'll go and I'll look at the profile, and they're like, streamed in 2011. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
no longer
okay, cool.
active.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But anyways, thanks again for coming on Launch Sequence. I'm gonna definitely have you on here again. This is a great talk. If there's anything
No,
else
thank
you'd like to
you.
say before we get off,
No, there's nothing more. We've discussed most of it, and
we
I'm
have.
looking forward to coming back on again.
Yeah, we've tired out the topics. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for all of you who are listening or watching, whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. Please give a like, drop a comment. Let me know how you if you enjoyed the episode, and share it with your friends if they enjoy this type of content. But again, thank you so much for joining us for this one, especially you supporters watching live. I will see you in the next one.